You're stuck where you're stuck. Oh,
But
okay.
anyone watching, please look at Desiree is beautiful. She's going to be the one speaking for most of this interview. So if you guys touch her screen on the upper left, it should make her, hopefully, unless they've changed this as well, it should make her full screen. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I don't know how to do. I was hoping because your little box is
Yeah.
kind of like right over me, and so I was seeing if I could at least move you on the screen, but I guess I can't.
Oh, I know. They're still, I mean, we love District, but they're still building the app.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
They are definitely still building the app. Okay, so I just got share. I'm gonna reshare. Wow, guys. So I will make a district-wide announcement that the
Yay, Bug! Thank you, Bug, for your help.
oh my God, Bug. I need to reach out to you after this, Bug. Okay. Yeah, because it used to be you just like last week, Desiree, you just touched the name and it popped up. So it did like quickly disappeared. And then, but before it was the top. So I was like, why would they go back?
Well, that's okay. We got it figured out.
Okay. I'm going to send this out. Let's meet Desiree of the Vintage. Okay. The Jewelry Resellers podcast. Well, something they don't know about you yet is that you worked on live TV. So this probably wouldn't have gone over well on live TV, but it would have made a great meme eventually. Okay.
Yes, I've had to deal with a lot worse. This is nothing.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait to hear. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we're here, guys. Desiree, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you inviting me on and talking jewelry.
I wore all my chains for you, all of them.
I love it.
I still actually even have like a price tag on one. I forgot to move this around, but jewelry addicts, we are going to recenter here. I'm so excited for you to meet Desiree. I have known Desiree since the beginning of this community, and she was so incredibly generous to give me a spot on the Jewelry Resellers podcast in May of 2024. Correct?
Wow, I can't believe it's been almost a year.
It's been almost a year, and now we are actually speaking at the same conference in March, which I will review at the very end. It's called the Boss Reseller Remix. I have some host notes, which I will be copying and pasting in the chat because I want you guys to go subscribe right now to the Jewelry the Jewelry Reseller podcast. I almost called it the Jewelry Reseller Boss Remix, but I almost Desiree has interviewed over 100 people on her podcast, and it is a plethora of free information. She also offers ebooks, and you guys can click a link in the host notes, especially if you can only hang out for a little bit on the live. Click that link. I'll also share it with an announcement after the live so you can see what she has to offer, because all of us have so much more to learn. And one of the pillars of Vintage Jewelry Addicts is that we are here to grow together. So Desiree, I'm going to give you the floor. I want to hear from you. What was your background in jewelry resale before launching this awesome YouTube channel?
Okay, so a lot of people already know, but I was a news and traffic reporter in my corporate life. And I had my son, and I realized that I didn't want to, work. Like that job is very demanding. And so I started doing the whole eBay thing, right? And that was back in 2007. And I actually had a lot of jewelry. I had a lot of my own personal jewelry, and I started selling it on eBay. And then realized, wow, this could be a whole thing. So that's kind of how the whole love and the jewelry reselling started. And then I kind of fell into the whole eBay community, the reseller community. But then I realized there wasn't anything specifically for jewelry resellers. There was a ton of information as it relates to reselling, but there wasn't any jewelry specific information. There was very little. There were a few YouTube channels, but there wasn't really anything that talked about the business of reselling jewelry. There was a lot of information and content about vintage jewelry, how to identify jewelry, how to, learn about the different designers and stuff like that. But there was no information about the business of reselling jewelry. And so I created the podcast because it was what I was looking for when I was trying to take my jewelry reselling business to the next level. So I said, there has to be more people out there, looking for this same information. And so that's how the podcast got started. So and I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, if I could just do that only, I would do that only. That's how much I love it.
I can totally see you taking the show on the road and interviewing people all over the country.
That would be ideal. I would love to just, because there's such, I think, an underrepresented segment of people who love vintage jewelry specifically, right? Like, there's tons of people out there who love to talk about diamonds, who love to talk about pearls and all that. But there's not really a whole lot out there for vintage and antique jewelry as it relates to how we do it in the reseller community. So I'm hoping to kind of put more of that on the map, moving forward.
Oh my gosh, so fantastic. And if you guys haven't already subscribed, I put the Jewelry Reseller Podcast YouTube link in the comments. But Desiree, remind us, where else can we listen to the podcast? It's not just YouTube, right?
Correct. It's also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find the Jewelry Resellers podcast. I've done my best to put it on as many listening, podcast platforms that I could find. So if you go on a specific podcast platform and it's not there, let me know and I'll make sure to get it there.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. I love to clean and listen to podcasts.
Yeah, I do that too. I listen to podcasts every day when I'm getting ready, like when I'm putting on my makeup and all that. I just listen to it because I figure, why not,
Right. I mean, it's the best way to multitask. And
Mm-hmm.
as mentioned, okay, Jewelry Addicts, Desiree has over 100, I think, is it 129 videos? Am I right? Counted?
I just recorded episode 100, but yeah, there's a bunch of shorts and other stuff on the channel as well. So it could be, I haven't checked, but yes, tomorrow will be episode 100, which is crazy.
That syncs perfectly with this interview. Congratulations. Episode
Thank you.
100. Oh my goodness. Okay. So clearly you've interviewed a ton of experts, and I'm sure with every interview, you're like, there's something here that I would like to use. So what are some nuggets that you've picked up from these interviews that you would be willing to share with us jewelry addicts tonight?
Gosh, there's so many because I've talked to so many people, and it's not just people who love vintage jewelry, but it's people who are knowledgeable and also people who are knowledgeable about the vintage jewelry industry. Like, I interviewed Michelle, and she's one of the organizers of the antique and vintage jewelry show. And so just learning about jewelry shows and what goes into putting that together and why we should attend them, and the type of connections and relationships you can build by attending these types of events. That was a whole eye-opening thing. I've interviewed, I had a couple of interviews with gentlemen who are experts on Rolex watches. Like, when we're outsourcing, I always come across, but I don't know anything about them. So just learning about all of these different aspects as it relates to jewelry and all these spin-offs, it's like you really can make this into not just about jewelry, but about whatever works for you. Like, if you want to do jewelry restoration and jewelry repair, if you want to do consignment, if you want to niche down and focus only on pearls or sterling silver, like there's so many ways that you can make this business work. And discovering that was very eye-opening for me because I realized it doesn't have to just stop at vintage jewelry. You can be an educator. There's people who have reached out to me classes. There's people who want me to put on a jewelry show or do pop-ups, right, as it relates to our jewelry. So there's so many things you can do within or under the umbrella of vintage jewelry. Um, and I think that's really good because I've heard a lot of resellers talk about, it's getting so saturated. It's hard to find the jewelry we want to sell. Everything is so expensive. You can't find anything at the thrift stores or the estate sales. Well, that's all true, but that's why we have to pivot. And so I'm kind of hoping that through the podcast, you can find other ways to build off of what you already know as a vintage jewelry reseller and add some additional services or ways that you can monetize that knowledge even when you're not flipping jewelry.
I love that. And I will agree with you that just speaking about our sellers, many of them have insane expertise at monetize.
Yes.
For sure. For sure. And we also have some sellers that definitely specialize, that are going like super niche. I get so fascinating. It's vintage jewelry, but then there's niches within vintage jewelry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's tons.
Which leads to my next question and I'm going to share the full video because I want everyone to watch it. But you, Desiree, did a great video. In fact, I would love to see this like 3 times a year, which are 2025 jewelry trends.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't really talk. It's funny. We don't like really talk about trends here. I think because we're addicts. So it's like everything goes. There's stuff that sells a little bit better than other items. And I do like suggest to our sellers like, hey, maybe you want to focus on this. But I want to hear from you, Desiree. And I'm going to put that video in the chat now. But what are you predicting or what trends are being forecasted for jewelry for 2025?
Well, the biggest thing that I have noticed is that the trend as it relates to buying and selling jewelry is going to be bulk to consumer. And I talked about that in that video, where it seems like a lot of people, just regular everyday buyers, are now looking to buy in bulk. Now, that doesn't mean they want 50, 1,000, pieces, but they're looking to buy in lots of 10, lots of 20. And if we can kind of figure out how we can kind of tap into that trend, not only can we bump up our average sales price, but we can move our stuff a lot quicker. So that's something that I have learned, especially doing live sales, is like when I can offer bulk lots or maybe a set of like 3 earrings instead of selling individual, or 3 necklaces, whatever the case may be, instead of selling individual pieces. I have found that people are willing to pay more for that, especially if you can create curated sets or curated lots. So I think that's going to be the trend going forward, especially in live selling.
That is so awesome to hear. We haven't really done that as a community. Maybe some sellers have done it like one off where here's a lot. I think most of our sold as a customer makes like a customer's like, oh, I like this, can you give me a bulk deal, versus the like presentation of lots. But I've seen that work really well in the Facebook selling communities where the jewelry is like, it's color coordinated. So it has a theme.
Yes.
Where it might be various pieces, but it still has some sort of theme. Is that what you've noticed, Desiree?
Well, the way it kind of started for me is I was doing a live show. I think it was on Whatnot. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I was doing a live show.
We talked about Whatnot.
I was selling. I was selling a Trifari. I sold a Trifari necklace, and when I sold that one, the woman who won the auction, she said, "Oh, do you have any more?" And I said, "I do." And So I showed her another trifecta. Oh, do you have any more? And I do. And so when she was asking that, something like a light bulb went off. And I said, she wants three, or she's willing to buy three Trifari necklaces. That must mean somebody else would be willing to buy three brooches, three bracelets, or maybe a curated set of a bracelet and a brooch and earrings or whatever. And so I kind of started doing that. And so what I realized is that people like that. Number one, because they get a deal. Number two, it saves them time. And number three, they feel like, it's just less work. Like if they want something for several outfits or maybe several gifts, they can knock it out in one purchase and they're happy with all three things, right? So if we can curate that for them, like I said, we're going to make more sales and our average sales price is going to be more.
I love this already. I can already see like the wheels spinning in some of our sellers' heads. And as a jewelry addict community, it only makes sense that lots would be trending because people want more. We're addicts.
Yes. Yes, yes. So the bulk to consumer trend, I think, is going to be big, and the other thing too is I think people just want to feel like they're getting more for their money, right? And they just want to feel like, because we're spending much more on everything else nowadays. And so jewelry is a splurge, jewelry is a treat. And if feel like, wow, if I could get three brooches, that I love, that I could wear them together individually, whatever the case may be, give them away. I just think that that's another way that we're providing excellent service to our buyers, right? And then some people will even ask you, oh, if you have a matching necklace to this, or do you have a matching brooch, to this necklace I just bought, or whatever the case is. And I noticed people were asking that too. And I said, hey, there's something here that I think I can use to my advantage, right? And it's going to be win-win for both of us, for me and for the buyer.
Seriously. Oh my gosh, seriously. So with your particular collection, I'm curious, Desiree, because a lot of us as sellers were like, oh yeah, this isn't for sale. this isn't at a best. What type of jewelry pieces do you like to collect?
Well, I really love vintage, and when it comes to brooches, I like the big, bold statement brooches. When it comes to like necklaces and stuff, I prefer the more minimalist style, kind of like what I have on today, simple hoops. That's always been my thing. But I do like big, bold, gaudy brooches. Like I like them to be blingy. I like them to be loud and noticeable. So that's really kind of my thing. And I don't know. Brooches are my favorite piece of jewelry to source, to buy, to sell, and to wear.
So I take it that you probably predominantly sell brooches.
I do. Well, I've sold a lot. I haven't sourced any in a while.
Okay.
But yeah, when I sell brooches, it's always a good show. It's like my favorite thing. I think my enthusiasm for brooches just kind of comes through, and people, I make people excited about brooches even if they weren't when they first started watching the live.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that. So yeah, we didn't even talk about the fact where so you're based in Las Vegas. You are
Yes.
second, because we just interviewed Vicky. Or kind of.
I love her. I just saw her the other day.
Where'd you see her?
Well, I had to drop off my donation for the charity auction for the event.
Yeah.
So Katie's like, oh, just come on by the house and drop it off. And so I went and saw her there, and she's just so adorable. She's just so sweet. Yeah. So I saw her last week.
That's fantastic. So in Las Vegas, I know you can't be like, oh, this place, like you can't give addresses, but what type of sourcing are you doing? Are you doing mostly like antique malls? Are you doing yard sales? Are you doing like?
I do it all. I do. I have a thrift store route that I go to every week.
Wow.
Antique malls that I get really my best stuff, although it's getting more and more pricey. So it's kind of hit or miss now. It used to be really, really good. I want to say 2023-ish, it was really good. And then now the prices have just kind of gone up. every now and again you can find something, but that's my favorite place to go because I always find unique stuff there. I've also had a lot of luck here with estate sales as well.
Nice. Nice. Cause I know like Las Vegas itself, like it's not like you can drive from town to town. It's gonna be like a 2 hour, right? Like a 2 hour drive. Like versus the Northeast, it's like there's a lot of little towns with different estate sales. Am I right or am I wrong? Where you guys have less. Okay.
Well, I mean, it just depends. Like in Vegas, there's not much outside of Vegas,
Yeah.
right? Like you can go to Henderson, you can go to North Las Vegas, you can go to Boulder City, and those are all little like cities outside of Vegas. But once you kind of get past there, it's just flat desert. So you would have to drive at least a couple hours, maybe 4 hours. You can go into California and source there, but I don't do that. I probably should, but I don't.
Yeah, that's a pretty gnarly drive. I mean,
Yeah, and it's just straight desert. Like there's nothing to see. It's just
yeah.
mountains and dirt and stuff.
Oh my, oh my goodness. But yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, Las Vegas is still the land of thrift. Like there's a lot there.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of resellers here too, right?
Yeah.
So, luckily, there's not a lot of jewelry resellers, and most of the resellers here in Vegas are clothing. So, but there are a few jewelry people here, so it's not like I have it all wide open and I don't have to think about it. But I source a lot online too. I
Same.
do sourcing on online auctions, online estate sales, so I do that too.
Right, right. And a lot of our sellers do as well. So you were
Yeah,
totally talking our language. We actually do like entire unboxing. Um,
yeah, exactly.
right. So it's like, yeah, it's like the knowledge is there. But you did reference already an answer to this question. And I think a lot of our older sellers will be like, well, let me tell you about the time. But I'm curious, your before and after of like how the industry itself has changed. You already referenced that prices have gone up just since 2023 at antique malls. So
Hmm.
how do you feel, especially because you've interviewed a lot of experts, how do you feel that the industry has changed for better? And then how do you feel that it has changed where it's like, this is a little tough?
Well, as it relates to things changing for the better, I think that people are more knowledgeable and people are more like educated, which I think is good, right? Because when you have a vintage piece of jewelry, people understand now that this isn't something you can just run to Dillard's and go get. This isn't something you can just run to, Amazon and order, right? So I think that's good. They can appreciate the uniqueness, the history, and all of the things that go along with vintage jewelry. As it relates to things getting worse, I talked about this. I did an interview with the Canadian magazine not too long ago, and we were talking about how AI is affecting the jewelry industry. Now, it's good and bad, right? It really is, because you can actually have AI design an entire piece of jewelry specific to how you want it, right? Like you can take a vintage piece that is just like they don't make it anymore, and you can have AI recreate it. So it's good and it's bad. But the other thing that I've noticed is like now a lot of the what are they called? Like overseas, they're buying all of these unique jewelry pieces and they're mass producing them overseas. And that has kind of flooded the market. They talked about this at the jewelry show last year, and that you have to be more careful. Obviously, in the world of replicas, fakes, high end fakes, whatever, it's hitting and impacting the jewelry market as well. So a lot of people have gotten ripped off thinking that they've bought, maybe a unique vintage Miriam Haskell, and it turns out to be not that. So we just have to get a little bit more careful, a little bit more knowledgeable, and be more aware of exactly how fakes and replicas are even flooding the vintage market.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, that is the big question mark. Um, is it just from Timu or it's probably also direct to wholesaler?
Yeah, AliExpress, Alibaba.
Yeah. Yeah, but also direct to like, you know how on Instagram you get these random messages like we can manufacture this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure they're legit people. It's not like I mean, I'm sure people could scam, but I think if you paid them, you would actually get a product as well. So some of these wholesale stores in major cities, they're just buying it up and then they're selling it wholesale from within the store. And then it's somehow getting into the marketplace. I don't think it's just online purchases either. I think actually people are buying it in stores and then it's like flooding the markets
Yeah.
once they're, yeah.
Well, I know somebody had said that, and I think I read this in the Juliana group, that somebody overseas bought this really rare Juliana piece, and they bought it so they could mass produce it, right? And it really was like this rare, beautiful piece that you probably just can't find. And so it's kind of heartbreaking to think that,
Yeah.
you know, this beautiful, unique, hard to find Juliana piece is now going to be mass produced, because somebody bought the original strictly for the purpose of copying it, not because they appreciate, all of the intricacies of the piece. They bought it specifically
Yeah.
to copy it
Yeah.
and to sell fakes, hundreds of thousands of fakes of it. So it's just things like that where those of us who really, really value and appreciate, vintage jewelry for all of, what goes into it and where it comes from and the history and the design, that they just don't make anymore. It's heartbreaking to think that, you know, it's just so easily replicated, right?
Yeah.
And so
And the fact that it's gone, right? Like they're not.
yes. And that, we may never see that particular piece in its original form ever
Right.
again, if at all.
Right. It makes me think. So the Real, they did a storefront in New York. It was a really interesting marketing idea, and the storefront you couldn't enter it because it was a storefront of fakes.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just like, how could we? And I'm curious if there's anyone that's watching this live or watching the replay who has like a Juliana lookalike or a Miriam Haskell lookalike or a Kenneth J. Lane lookalike, and
Uh-huh.
have the lookalike next to the real one, and then we can try to figure out, okay, well, what, from an expert's point of view, what makes the Kenneth J. Lane real? What makes the Miriam Haskell real? Obviously the marking, but if that piece doesn't have the marking in its original form, then what
Well,
what
those can be fake too. The stamps and the markings, those are faked too. Just like on Tiffany, right? Like we've all seen the Tiffany, the heart necklace. We've all seen
yeah,
the fakes of those.
that's
So it's just a matter of them doing the same thing with these other pieces as well. But see, the
how,
thing is
yeah.
like a Miriam Haskell is not as well known as like a Tiffany necklace. So to the average person, they may not know that, or they may not even care, right? They may just say, "Hey, I just want this pretty necklace that
Yeah,
looks fabulous. I don't care if it's real or fake."
right.
And that's, I think that's kind of across the board when it comes to replicas because people say that about the handbags, shoes and everything too, like people just want the look. They don't care if it's real or fake.
Totally. Yeah, it's such valid points. Yeah, you're right. I wasn't even thinking about that part about they're actually mass producing it to be a knockoff or not knockoff, to be a copy versus
Mhm.
as inspired by knockoff. It's like, no, this is being sold on, the streets of Chinatown as we know, or wherever. Um, and I think, what it comes down to, like you said, Desiree, is just educating people more because people that are educated will be buyers of the authentic. And then that means that the authentic will still bear the top selling price, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's people, like I said, there's always going to be certain tiers of as it relates to, people who buy and wear and sell vintage jewelry. There's going to be the people who just want the affordable stuff that looks almost as good as the real thing. And then we have, our higher tiered buyers who actually want the original pieces and who want the craftsmanship and, the provenance of the piece. And so I think it's just a matter of, who do we want to serve? I'm not advocating for selling a bunch of knockoffs, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
there's a market for everything, right? So, we just have to decide, where are we going to be? Who are we going to serve?
So well said. And on that note, I want to talk about your resale business, Desiree. So you obviously come to us with so much experience before and after the pandemic and having launched the Jewelry Reseller podcast. But I'm sure now, looking back, you can say, could have done that differently. Or I don't know, maybe you're transitioning your business now. So I'd love to hear more from you. What are some lessons you've learned, and like, what is the state of your jewelry resale business today?
Well, as it relates to my jewelry reselling business, I've slowed down a lot. I'm not as aggressive or as much in hustle mode as I once was. A lot of it has to do with just the timing of all the other things that I'm doing. Um, and I don't know. I feel like as much as I love reselling and as much as I love vintage jewelry, I'm also at a point too where I know I'm ready to do something different, and I know I'm ready to be more in the creator educator side of things without necessarily reselling. And so that's kind of where I've pivoted. Now I do still have listings up. I still do live shows here and there, but I just don't do them as much as I did. And I have found that I'm really a creator type. I like to create content. I like to write and share. I like to share information. I think that's kind of something I've always done. That's why I was a news reporter. I really love bringing information and educating people. And so that's really where I want my focus to be. Now, it doesn't mean I won't still sell jewelry or look at it or buy it. Of course I will. But I just don't see myself being a full-time jewelry reseller going forward. Probably, I don't know. Because I consider myself part-time now too. so that's kind of where I'm going. I would love to uh, do the podcast full-time. Like I said, I just don't think it's feasible now. But I do that in addition to all the other things I do as it relates to being a content creator. And that's really where I want to spend my time and energy. But I still love jewelry. I still have a passion for it. Like, honestly, if I could just film myself finding jewelry, beautiful pieces all over, and make a living and keep the lights on doing that, I totally would. But right now, that's not the reality. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with
Totally feel you. And
it.
it's a lot to do, but like to do YouTube full time and to do jewelry resell full time are two full time jobs. So it's
Yeah.
have you do you, I'm curious, do you stream your whatnot shows to YouTube so that people can?
No, I don't. I mean, I did, but
Okay.
I don't anymore. Just because I mean, not a lot of people were really watching them, and I kind of felt like it kind of cluttered up cluttered up my channel.
Right.
And from what I've learned as it relates to YouTube, I don't want to do something that's not getting any kind of engagement, so I just stopped.
I
I don't want to I don't want to put something on there that nobody's watching, right? So, but that's just me. I mean, I've seen other people do it and they get, hundreds of people watching. That just wasn't my experience.
right. Right. Totally get that. Okay, so episode 100 comes out tomorrow. What is the topic?
You mean tomorrow's episode?
Yes, episode 100, right? Tomorrow?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, what's the topic?
It's actually a good one. I'm really excited about it. It's I asked Chat GPT how to grow my jewelry business. Now, this is something that is really I like. It's kind of a trend, and it's like I asked Chat GPT this. So I asked AI, how can I improve? How can I 10x my jewelry business? So that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. That comes out tomorrow.
I am so curious what Chat GPT told you.
I know. Yes, but Chat GPT gave me a whole plan and all kinds of information. And I'm going to share that tomorrow on the podcast. What AI told me I need to do in order to 10x my jewelry business, my
Oh,
jewelry reselling business.
oh my
So
God.
that's tomorrow's topic. It's really good. I was actually kind of surprised at, so.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the few people that loves AI. I really do.
Nice.
So I use it a lot in my business, and it makes it easier, especially if you're like a one man band, one woman band. It really helps me get a lot more done.
We have a seller. I'm going to give her a shout out. She popped in. I don't know, Diana, if you're still here. Arctic
Hi, Diana.
Treasures. Yeah, Diana, she has been helping our rain trains and like popping out these amazing flyers. And I'm like, Diana, how the heck? And it's Diana, I think it is Chat GBT, but you did have to subscribe. I think she told me she had to subscribe to like a more premium offering. But flyers are unbelievable. Where here's little old me going on Canva, you know,
Yeah, Canva has AI too.
like
Canva has AI too. It's not very good. I don't think theirs is that great, but they do have an AI component or an AI option on there.
yeah, yeah. Well, I definitely have to become. I have not hopped on, guys. It took me until last year to put a credit card on my iPhone for Apple Pay. So that's kind of I'm strange because I'm all over technology, but I'm also a little bit as like a older millennial. I'm also like a little apprehensive about it. But no, that's going to be really interesting to see. But we can still. Here's my great segue, Desiree. We can still learn from Desiree outside of AI. So first of all, if you guys haven't subscribed, and I'm going to put it in the chat again, it's also in the seller notes. But Desiree, she'll be celebrating with her 100th interview tomorrow with the Jewelry Reseller podcast. And
Thank you.
welcome. And Desiree also, and I specifically, I'm sorry, I don't know why this is it's tagging to someone for some reason. Okay, there. She also has some amazing, really super accessible and affordable ebooks. So I do have that link in the host notes. I'm going to put the link in the chat as well. But Desiree, I'd love for you to kind of like walk us through what some of those ebooks are and why the jewelry addicts should consider purchasing one.
All right, let me pull up my list
Yeah,
here.
pull it up. Remember.
All right, so now I created these ebooks because these are things that people have asked me about over the past year of me doing the podcast. And so I wanted to create some resources that were affordable and that answered a lot of the questions that, or the most common questions that I got as it relates to us doing what we do. So the first one is a guide, and it's the Jewelry Reseller's Guide to Cleaning, Storing, and Organizing Jewelry, because we do get a lot of questions on that, especially when you're outsourcing. Now, of course, you can Google the stuff. You don't have to get it through my guide, but if you want everything in one, I do have a PDF guide for you. And then the second ebook, or the second guide I created, is the Jewelry Reseller's Guide to Social Media Marketing. Now, I know not everybody is into social media, but it's kind of my thing. It's kind of my jam. And so I think that ebook is probably about 100 pages, and I just poured everything I know about how to promote yourself, how to build your brand, how to use social media to make more sales of your jewelry, whether you're doing it online or off. Like in my corporate life, I was a digital content manager and I was a social media manager. So I know this stuff from the corporate level. And so I've just kind of filtered it down to make it more relevant to us as individual jewelry resellers. And then my third guide, and I get questions on this a lot, is my ultimate keywords and hashtags list for jewelry resellers. So if you want to figure out what hashtags you should use, what keywords you should use in your listings, that I think I have hundreds. I want to say at least 500 keywords and hashtags to every jewelry niche that I could think of that people have asked me about. So if you want to make your listing stronger, if you want to help optimize your listings so they can be found, that is the guide for you. And even if you don't use the exact keywords, it will kind of help you think, well, what are people searching for, right? What are people typing in? If I'm trying to sell this necklace, what would people type in to search this necklace? And so I have hashtags and keywords in there that you can use both in your listings and in your social media posts.
Okay. My mind is already blown because those are definitely like three very niche parts of the jewelry resale business that there's not a lot of just content out there, or it's not even like updated, or it was created by AI, so it's not entirely human. So thank you, Desiree, for putting your time and energy into these ebooks. That social media one I am definitely going to be grabbing personally.
Oh,
Diana's also going to be grabbing them. She's like, I'm gonna put them on my list, and that one too, must have. Yes, must have. We're really how do I say, we're really like affirmative about learning and sharing knowledge. And so thank you for being open about your knowledge, Desiree. And just being, who you are by interviewing so many fantastic people and setting up those interviews and all the things that goes into it to build the Jewelry Reseller podcast. Is there anything else before we wrap here? We were able to kind of condense this interview, so we're coming up on an hour here. But is there anything else you would want to add to talk about who you are, what you do, and how the Jewelry Addicts can find you?
No, I think you've pretty much already covered it. I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to come on your platform and to share what I know about what we do, and I can't wait to meet you in person next month.
Hooray.
Like,
Look,
it's like what, like 2 weeks away or 3 weeks away or something?
like 2 weeks away. That's a great segue. Okay, so those of you that are local to Las Vegas or within a road trip or a short flight, because I do realize it's not near everyone, but there is an amazing conference. I interviewed Vicky. She's one of the co-hosts, and Desiree and I are both speaking at the conference. It's in Las Vegas. It's for resellers. It is super educational. You will take value away from it. And I learned that, I don't know if you knew this, Desiree, they're actually providing food for all the breakfasts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like free breakfast, free coffee.
And then there's a dinner, I think, on the last night.
There's a free dinner on the last night. Drinks you do have to pay for yourself. So that's really helpful. And what was I going to say? The center, it's at the Nevada Institute for the Blind. It's technically really close to a ton of hotels. So it's like a $10 Uber. But guys, it's March 11th. 13th. I'm actually speaking the last day, Desiree. So I had my flight scheduled to leave on the 13th. So now I'm leaving on the 14th, just FYI. So I'll be
Yeah, I'm speaking on the second day, I think.
okay. Awesome. Well, I will be there, but I'm landing the 8th and I'm leaving the 14th now. But anyone who is interested about other aspects of resale, I realize I tell this to everyone. I'm like, look, you guys should sell everywhere and as many things as possible. But what I think is just going to be so empowering is you're going to meet other people. And when you meet other people, you learn things that just aren't readily available. And you just don't even know what you're going to learn. Right, Desiree? Where you're just like, oh,
Yeah. This is my second year going. The first, I went to the one in 2023, and I met so many amazing people. But that's where I met Costume Jeweler. I don't know if you guys follow him on YouTube, but Costume Jeweler CJ. I met him there, and he's like one of my besties now. He's like my jewelry bestie. So he's going to be there too.
I can't wait to meet him. Oh my God, we should do a 3-way live something with CJ.
Oh yeah, like him and I, we already have plans. We're going to be out thrifting and antique malling.
Okay.
So you're welcome to come along if you want, but
Yeah.
we plan to, like, it's going to be jewelry extravaganza that whole week.
I'm so ready. I will take all of Vintage Jewelry Addicts with me something I encourage, but we don't do enough. And I'm sure you've seen it on Whatnot, is just going live from different thrift stores and antique stores. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
totally do that.
Yeah. And, there's so many resellers there. Like, even if you don't meet other jewelry resellers, you still learn stuff that you can apply to,
Mm.
jewelry or whatever. So that's what I really enjoyed. It's just meeting other people who understand the nature and the lifestyle of what we do, because a lot of people don't.
No, they don't. They don't. It's still that meme of like, I sell someone else's trash for a living. I like trash.
Right, right. So it's just nice to be around people who understand, you
Yeah.
know, why you do what you do, why you like to dig, why you like to, look
Right.
through junk.
Right, right. Oh my goodness. This has been so great. Thank you for this powerful hour. Jewelry Addicts, Desiree is a plethora of information. I'm going to go grab one of her ebooks right now. I hope you guys do the same. I will kind of summarize this all in an announcement and a follow-up email blast. Desiree also is going to be interviewing me about Vintage Jewelry Addicts. So we're going to hopefully get as many people as possible to watch that and share that. I might even do like a giveaway of like, if you share it X amount of times, you enter. I don't know. I have to talk to you about that, Desiree, but I've been trying to figure out a giveaway. So I was thinking if they share the interview, it would be like a win-win. Yeah, we are growing Vintage Jewelry Addicts, and it's thanks to people like Desiree that we meet new people, meet new customers, new sellers, new collectors. So big shout out to Desiree. Thank you so much. Um,
Uh-huh. Thank
love
you,
to have
Sammy.
you. We would love to have you sell anytime in the platform. I know you're part-time now, but anytime you want to sell, just reach out. We have a lot more people than we did this time last year. So
I
there's
know I was active, but I think when I went inactive, I got
got
I got booted.
yep, yep. We boot
Which
people.
is fine. It's fine. It's
Yeah,
no big deal. I think, yeah, you should have people who are actively, doing what they need to do.
well, your seller status is full. I might have even made you a moderator because I was trying to figure this out. So I'll make sure that you're not a moderator, but you are welcome to sell anytime. And we pretty much allow anything that's not, like you said, mass produced. So even if you have some modern jewelry as well, that's totally fine.
Okay, great. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, I mean, I talk because people ask me, "Oh, where should I sell my jewelry?" And I always say VJA, VJA.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we want all the sellers. We want to be like 100,000 listings by the end of 2025. We're at 7,200. So I actually think it's possible.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it's totally possible. But yes, Jamie, shout out to Jamie. Thank you, Jamie, for trying
Thank you, Jamie.
to save us earlier. It was me. Jamie's our amazing admin. So if you ever need anything, you can also message her, Desiree. And guys, we will see you live tomorrow. I think there's it's either tomorrow or Wednesday. There's a train scheduled. I will probably go live at some point to raid the train. I just have to figure out when it starts. So we will see you live again. Desiree, have a great night. And
You too, and thank you so much.
thank you so much. Thank you, Jewelry Addicts. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.